There's a moment in life when you realize your own family sees you as nothing, not as a person, not as someone they love, but as a failure, a disappointment, a cautionary tale they tell at dinner parties. For Marcus, that moment came on a Saturday evening in his mother's dining room. The chandelier was casting warm light across the mahogany table. His three siblings were there, all successful, all married, all proud. And then there was Marcus, 32 years old, still climbing, still fighting, still believing in himself when nobody else did. His youngest sister, Claire, started it, innocently enough, or so she claimed. "So, Marcus, how's that startup thing going?" She said it the way you'd ask a child about their crayon drawings. Polite, patronizing, painful. Marcus smiled. He always smiled. "It's moving forward. We just secured our Series A funding." His father didn't even look up from his steak. Series A? That's what, pocket change in real money? His father was a cardiologist, a successful one, but success had made him cruel in subtle ways. Then his mother spoke, and this is where the knife went deep. "You know, we've all been worried about you, Beta. Your brother just got promoted to partner at his law firm. Your sister just bought a second home, and you're still struggling, aren't you?" She said struggling the way someone says terminal illness, like it was permanent, like it was inevitable. Marcus's older brother, David, chimed in. He worked in investment banking. Everything about David was polished. His watch probably cost more than Marcus's entire wardrobe. "Look, I respect the effort, really," David said, cutting his rare steak. "But let's be honest, most startups fail. You should probably think about getting a real job, something stable, something respectable." The table went quiet, not the good kind of quiet, the kind where your family has just collectively decided your dreams don't matter. Then Claire laughed. Not a mean laugh, that's what made it worse, a sympathetic laugh. "Poor Marcus," she said, shaking her head, "always reaching for the stars when his feet are on the ground." His mother patted his hand. That gesture, that was the worst part. Pity, pure pity. Marcus sat there, surrounded by the people who were supposed to believe in him, and he felt completely alone. He excused himself early that night, told them he had an early meeting. He didn't, he just couldn't bear to hear any more. That night, sitting in his small apartment, Marcus made a silent promise to himself. He wouldn't prove them wrong just to make them proud. He would prove them wrong because he had to, because giving up wasn't an option, because one day they would understand that success isn't just measured in how much money you have in the bank. One day, they would see. 3 years earlier, Marcus had started something nobody believed in, a fintech platform. Not a fancy name, not a buzzword-filled pitch, just a simple idea, making banking accessible to people who were excluded from the system. While his siblings climbed corporate ladders and attended country clubs, Marcus was in coffee shops, talking to people in underserved communities. He was listening to their stories. An elderly woman who couldn't get a loan because she had no credit history. A small business owner who had to pay predatory interest rates because banks wouldn't touch him. A young couple trying to build their future but locked out of the system. Marcus saw the problem, but more importantly, he saw the solution. His co-founder, Jen, was brilliant. Together, they built something different, not just another app, a revolution. Transparent fees, fair lending practices, technology that actually helped people instead of exploiting them. The first year was brutal. They mortgaged everything. Jen worked nights as a data analyst to pay the bills. Marcus took freelance coding jobs. They were eating ramen and drinking instant coffee, but they never stopped believing. Then came the moment everything changed. A venture capital firm reached out. Not just any firm, Mercer Capital, one of the most respected investment groups in the country. They were looking for the next big fintech disruptor. They wanted what Marcus and Jen had built. The Series A funding came through, $15 million. Marcus was no longer a struggling startup founder. He was a CEO, a visionary, a guy whose name was being written about in Forbes. But this is where the story takes an interesting turn. 6 months after the funding, something shifted in the industry. Mercer Capital began acquiring other banks, smaller institutions, regional banks that had been around for decades, including one very specific bank that Marcus had been watching for years, Hartford Banking Group. Hartford wasn't just any bank. It was the bank his father worked with, the bank his brother had connections to, the bank that symbolized everything old money and exclusive privilege. When the acquisition was announced, Marcus felt something click into place. Not revenge, he wasn't angry anymore. Something else, something like destiny. Because Mercer Capital had one condition for all their acquisitions. They wanted visionary leadership. They wanted young, innovative minds to restructure these old institutions. They wanted Marcus. At first, he didn't accept. He told himself it was coincidence. He told himself he didn't care about his family's opinions anymore. But late at night, when he couldn't sleep, he wondered what it would feel like. What it would feel like to walk back into their world, not as the struggling failure, but as the man who held the key to their future. The next morning, he called Mercer Capital. "I'm interested," he said. "In what?" they asked. "In taking over Hartford Banking Group." The announcement was made on a Monday morning. Mercer Capital names Marcus Chen as new Chief Executive Officer of Hartford Banking Group. It was in the business section, it was on LinkedIn, it was everywhere. Marcus's phone started buzzing. Messages from people he hadn't heard from in years. Old friends, distant cousins, everyone who suddenly remembered he existed. But he was waiting for one call. It came at 2 p.m. "Marcus?" His father's voice. For the first time in years, it sounded uncertain. "I saw the news." "Hello, Dad," Marcus said, keeping his voice calm, professional. "How are you?" "You're the new CEO of Hartford?" His father still couldn't believe it. "You're running the bank?" "That's what the press release says," Marcus replied. There was a long silence. Then his father did something Marcus hadn't expected. He laughed. A real laugh. Not mocking, almost relieved. "My God," his father said. "My God, son, I owe you an apology." Marcus felt something crack open inside his chest, but he didn't let it show. "I have a lot of work to do. The bank needs restructuring, modernization. It's going to be intense." "Of course," his father said quickly. "Of course. Listen, I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner this week, with the family. We should celebrate." "Actually," I interrupted, "that's something I wanted to discuss. I'm implementing new policies at Hartford. One of them is a complete review of all accounts and relationships, for transparency, for fairness. It's going to affect some of our longtime clients." His father's voice changed slightly. "What kind of review?" "A thorough one," Marcus said. "We'll be in touch with details soon." He hung up the phone. Marcus sat in his new office, mahogany desk, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the entire city, and he felt empty. He'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. He thought he'd feel victorious, vindicated, like he'd won something. Instead, he felt tired. But he had work to do. Because the truth was, Marcus didn't take this job to punish his family. He took it because he had a vision for something better, something fairer, something that actually meant something. But if his family was going to be affected by that vision, well, that was just the price of honesty. The review process took 2 months. Marcus implemented sweeping changes at Hartford. He brought in independent auditors. He looked at every account, every transaction, every relationship. And what he found was exactly what he expected: decades of preferential treatment, hidden fees, exclusive rates for the wealthy, and predatory practices buried in fine print that most customers never read. His brother David's account was first. David had been trading on insider information, not illegal. The legal system was designed to be complicated enough that rich people could do things that would destroy a regular person if they tried it. But it was unethical. It was the kind of thing that made Marcus's blood boil. When Marcus reviewed the account, he found consistent patterns. David had been using Hartford's investment advice services to get privileged information before major market moves. The bank had been enabling it, protecting it, making his family richer on the backs of ordinary people. Marcus didn't fire David. That wasn't his style. He simply flagged the account for regulatory review. He sent all the documentation to the SEC. He did it quietly, professionally, no emotions, just facts. David's law firm started investigating him internally 2 weeks later. By month 3, he'd been forced to resign. His reputation wasn't destroyed, but it was damaged. People started asking questions. The investment world is small. Word spread. Then came his father. His father had taken out loans using his position as a cardiac surgeon. He'd borrowed money at rates that should have been unavailable to him, another example of the system protecting the protected. But more than that, he'd been using inside connections at Hartford to get information that helped him make financial decisions. When Marcus reviewed the loans, he realized they were based on preferential terms that violated Hartford's own newly established lending guidelines. Marcus didn't call his father, he simply submitted the account for an internal audit. His father was summoned to a meeting with Hartford's board, not with Marcus. Marcus recused himself from that meeting because he understood the appearance of impropriety, but his father walked into that room expecting special treatment and walked out facing the reality that the rules had changed. The loans were restructured, the terms were adjusted. His father suddenly owed significantly more money than he expected. Claire, his sister, had her own crisis. Her and her husband had been benefiting from corrupt real estate deals. A Hartford executive had been steering them toward properties at below-market prices in exchange for business referrals. When Marcus's transparency initiative exposed the scheme, federal investigators started asking questions. Nobody went to prison, that wasn't the point, but everyone's world shifted. And through it all, Marcus worked. He didn't gloat, he didn't call them, he didn't say, "I told you so." He simply transformed Hartford Banking Group into something the old guard never imagined it could be: fair, transparent, and just. The bank started lending to people who'd been excluded before. Interest rates became reasonable, fees became honest. The system that had protected people like his family for generations began to crumble, and it was beautiful. 6 months into his role, Marcus was walking through Hartford's main branch when he saw his mother. She was sitting in the waiting area, alone. She looked smaller than he remembered, older, like the weight of the last months had finally caught up with her. Marcus could have walked past her. He had every right to, but he didn't. He sat down beside her. "Hello, Mom," he said. She looked up, and he saw tears in her eyes. "I came to see you," she said. "I wanted to talk to you, away from the family." Marcus didn't say anything. He just waited. "We were wrong," his mother said, her voice shaking. "At that dinner, we were cruel. We didn't believe in you, and I've spent every day since regretting it." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "I know what you've been doing. I know about your father's loans, about David's situation. I know it's all connected to us." She paused. "I want you to know that I understand if you meant for this to happen, if you wanted to hurt us the way we hurt you." Marcus turned to look at his mother directly. "I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it because it was right." But you knew it would hurt us, his mother said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Marcus admitted. I knew. His mother wiped her eyes. I'm not here to ask you to stop, or to ask for special treatment. I'm here to tell you that I'm sorry, that I see you now, really see you, not as a failure or a disappointment, but as a man who became exactly what he said he would be. She reached over and took his hand. I'm proud of you, she said, even if you've destroyed everything we built. Marcus felt something break open inside him. Not anger, not satisfaction, something more complicated, something like forgiveness. I didn't destroy anything. I just changed the rules so that everyone could win, not just the people at the top. His mother nodded slowly. I know, she said, and that's exactly why I'm proud. She left after that. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't make excuses. She just understood. And Marcus realized something sitting in that empty waiting room. Revenge isn't about making people suffer. Real victory is forcing people to understand why they were wrong. A year after taking over Hartford Banking Group, Marcus stood in front of industry leaders at a major financial conference. His keynote speech was titled, Banking for Everyone. For generations, he told the audience, banking has been a system designed to keep people out, to protect wealth, to preserve privilege. The rich get better rates, the poor pay more, and the system calls this normal. He paused, letting that sink in. I'm here to tell you that Hartford Banking Group is done with that system. Effective immediately, we're implementing the most aggressive wealth redistribution policy any major bank has ever attempted. Progressive fee structures, accessible lending, transparent practices, fair interest rates for everyone, regardless of their net worth. The audience was silent. Some looked scandalized. Some looked inspired. I know what you're thinking. This will hurt the bank's profits. And you're right, it will, in the short term. But I'm asking you to think about something. What's the purpose of banking? Is it to make shareholders rich, or is it to serve the people who trust you with their money? He showed them the numbers. Since taking over, Hartford's customer base had grown by 340%. More importantly, customer loyalty had increased by 280%. People weren't just banking with them because they had to. They were banking with them because they believed in the mission. And profitability? It was up 45%. It turns out, with a slight smile, that when you build a system that's fair, people want to be part of it. They trust it. They tell their friends. They build communities around it. The speech went viral. Within weeks, other banks started making similar changes. They were terrified of falling behind. What Marcus had started at Hartford became an industry-wide transformation, not because people suddenly became moral, but because they realized that fairness was actually profitable. His family watched it all happen. His father eventually came to see him. They had coffee. They didn't talk about the loans or the investigation. His father just said, I understand now what you were trying to do, and I'm sorry I couldn't see it before. David contacted him months later. He'd started a new career in legitimate finance, actually helping people instead of exploiting them. They didn't become close again, but there was a respect that hadn't existed before. Claire invited him to her kid's birthday party. That was her way of saying, I forgive you, and I understand. People often ask Marcus if he regrets what he did, if he feels guilty about his family's fall. And his answer is always the same. I don't regret changing the system, but I don't celebrate their suffering either. Because that's the thing about real revenge, about real victory. It's never what you imagine it to be when you're sitting alone in a small apartment feeling sorry for yourself. Marcus didn't set out to destroy his family. He set out to build something better. And yes, that better world meant his family lost the advantages they'd been abusing, but they also gained something more valuable, the respect of their son, and eventually their own self-respect. His father started volunteering at a community health clinic. David became an advocate for financial literacy in underserved communities. Claire started a foundation that helps young entrepreneurs get funding when traditional banks won't take a chance on them. They became better people, not because they were forced to, but because they finally understood what Marcus had always known, that real wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in integrity, in impact, in the knowledge that you're making the world better. The family dinner table is different now. When they gather, they talk about meaningful things, about the lives they've touched, about the systems they're changing. His father asks Marcus about his work with genuine interest, not judgment. His siblings actually listen. And Marcus? He's still running Hartford, still pushing to change the financial system, still fighting for people who don't have a voice. But now he's doing it with his family beside him, not against them. Because that's what revenge really looks like. Not destruction, but transformation. Not punishment, but evolution. The most powerful moment isn't when your enemies fall, it's when they finally understand why they needed to. And that's the truth this story teaches us. Sometimes the best revenge is just success with integrity. Marcus Chen's story isn't about a poor guy who got rich and showed up his family. That's the Hollywood version. The real story is deeper. It's about a man who refused to let other people's doubt become his reality, who took his pain and transformed it into purpose, who didn't just succeed, he succeeded on his own terms. What makes this story powerful isn't the revenge, it's the fact that revenge wasn't actually the goal. Marcus didn't wake up one day planning to destroy his family's privileges. He woke up determined to build something meaningful. And yes, that meaningful thing exposed the flaws in the system his family had been benefiting from. But here's what's important. He didn't do it to hurt them. He did it because it was right. That's the lesson we all need to understand. When you're hurt by people who matter to you, family, friends, mentors, your first instinct is revenge. You fantasize about the moment they realize how wrong they were about you. You imagine their faces when you succeed. But the truth is, actual success is so much better than imagined revenge. Because when you succeed with integrity, when you build something that matters, when you create a system that's fair and just, you don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. Your work speaks for itself. And the beautiful part? The people who doubted you will eventually see the truth, not because you forced them to, but because the truth is undeniable. Marcus's family didn't become better people because he humiliated them. They became better people because they watched someone they'd written off become someone remarkable, and they wanted to be part of that. So if you're sitting where Marcus was, feeling small, feeling doubted, feeling like the world doesn't believe in you, remember this. Your job isn't to prove them wrong. Your job is to build something so undeniably good, so clearly valuable, that they can't help but recognize it. That's real revenge, and that's real victory.